evening, everybody. Welcome to our April 20th council meeting. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Patricelli?
Present.
Councilwoman Dunn?
Present.
Councilman Dawes?
Here. Can I ask everybody to stand? We'll say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask the clerk to read the minutes of the previous meeting.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the April 6th meeting.
I'll second that motion.
My motion made in second. Call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
In favor.
Councilwoman Dunn?
In favor?
Mayor Patricelli?
In favor. Joe, I'll turn it over to you for, we have a presentation.
Before I start the presentation, with the loss of Patrolman Mark Langlis, I would ask that we take a moment of silence to remember him and the dedication that he had to the city of Watervliet before we start the program.
Very good.
Thank you. So tonight we have Centrica back. We heard from them a couple of meetings ago. We fine-tuned the presentation, we fine-tuned the content, and we have the team here tonight to give us a final presentation as to the streetlight program and giving us options to go forward. So I'll turn it over to the team. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, council. Appreciate the time. As Joe mentioned, we were here probably a few months ago at this point talking about this project. We've been working very hard on coming up with a final scope of work to present to you, so we're excited to do that this evening. Again, I'm Mitch from Centrica, the account executive. I have Scott Clark, project director, and then Ryan Van Blarcom, who is the energy engineer. So these are the brains behind the operation. I'm going to let them do most of the talking, but certainly if you guys have questions as we go through this presentation, as always, interrupt, ask questions. We want to make sure when we leave this evening, all your questions are answered. Okay. Before I turn over to Scott, who's going to take you through the list of the items that we've been working on for the city, just want to remind you, this is an energy savings project, meaning that this project is planned to be funded by the savings from the upgrades. All right. So that means no capital investments needed from the city for this project, and we're guaranteeing the savings that we show on here. So it's a really good opportunity for the city to leverage the savings, get some things done, some of the things you want to get done, and save your capital dollars for some other projects that I'm sure you have a list that you want to get through at some point. So with that said, I'm going to turn over to Scott Clark, and we can start taking you through what we looked at and what we put together for you.
Okay. Thank you for your time this evening, Council. If you want to flip over to the next page, we just have a list of the measures that we ran through quickly. I know we went through some of these the last time we met, but I was just going to do a quick rundown to try and explain a little bit about all the different things we looked at as far as our IGA, or investment grade audit. And these are really the items that we put out firm scopes of work, we put out a firm bid, we got some quotes back so that we know we have some firm pricing. Really the first two items are the street lighting, which was the impetus behind this project, and that is to upgrade all of your lights that are currently owned by National Grid, as well as the 48 that are owned by the city that are up along Route 2. So to change all of those out for everything over to LED. That's where the bulk of the savings from this project is coming from, and also the bulk of the incentives we're going to receive from National Grid. So that's kind of the core of the project. The rest of the measures are all things we looked at here in the senior center and the library to try and help upgrade and improve your facility. We looked to replace the air conditioning units. So there's 2 units here. They're as old as the building are at this point in time. They've been working, but that could change any day now, especially tomorrow's going to feel like summer again. So we're looking to replace that, as well as potentially do some reducting of those units to help with some zoning and to give this building a little better control, a little bit of setback. That goes with the next item, which is a building automation or building management system. And that is a computerized system that will control the scheduling, the zones where the heating and the cooling come on. It's going to prevent the ability for the boilers to come on when your air conditioning is still running, which right now when we put some loggers in here is still happening, that your boilers can still run, and for the heat around the perimeter can also run when your overhead air conditioning is on, so they can fight each other, and that's just kind of spending money just because. We can eliminate those problems, also send you some wireless alerts, You'll understand if something is broken, if it's too hot or it's too cold here. But also, you're going to be able to set the building back very conveniently. I know you already have that capability in some respect. This will really help open it up to the entire building. The other last three measures, the fan coils, the wall and unit heater, and the hydronic system, these are upgrades to other pieces of equipment here within the building. The fan coils are along the front wall of the building. We found a number of them were not working as part of when we did our investigation. Water still flows through them, but the fans don't work anymore, so they're not actually moving that warm air where it needs to be. And then the wall and unit heaters, there's some of those back here in the utility area in the kitchen. There's some in the hallways up front. Those are no longer functional either. Having all this equipment that'll work again will really help regulate the temperature a little better rather than having to move heat from one part of the building to another where you don't want it to be. So these are all the different measures that we took a look at, and we wanted to include those as an option to the city. So the scenarios we have, sort of I'm going to walk through, is we sort of put different packages of this together. We've got 4 scenarios to look at tonight to kind of, we put together what we thought would make the most sense for the city to consider. And that way it was kind of what sort of clumps of these items would make sense to try and take a look at. So if you flip the page, you can kind of see with the list, and you can see the financial numbers right underneath them. If you flip it that way, you can look at both at the same time for kind of comparison's sake. The first scenario that we have in here is really all of those measures I just talked about. So that's really going to be the most comprehensive project we could take a look at. And in doing so, that upfront investment is just over $863,000. We're expecting to get about a little under $34,000 back from National Grid. And they are charging, of that fee, there's $150,000 that they want to put in there as far as purchasing those fixtures. So the total investment is $979,000. I do want to mention that of that money, that does not include any grants that are going to be available, I know the city may or may not be working on, or any other funds. Everything that's incentive in here is only what we're getting from National Grid for swapping the lights. So if there's other monies that are there, that's not included in any of these values. From that work, we're looking to save the city about $135,000 a year between energy and maintenance savings. And we've also put a set aside in here in each of these scenarios of $14,000 a year that's going to escalate year over year to maintain the street lighting system. So currently National Grid, as part of what the city pays, they take care of the lights. I'll put that in quotes. The city will have that obligation moving forward if there's something that happens to repair a light outage. We've put aside $14,000 in the first year, and then it's going to escalate every year. That's money the city keeps. That's not money that comes to us. That's for the city to have to augment your DPW or to put an electrical contractor on retainer, someone to help maintain that system on behalf of the city. So that's really something we don't anticipate the city's going to need to use heavily at all in the first several years. The streetlights do come with a 10-year warranty. Right now, this project term is 9 years with everything. So the streetlights themselves will still be under warranty throughout the entire period you're paying them off. We do expect that they're going to have over a 20-year lifetime before you start to actually see failures of lights. In the meantime, we're going to give the city warranty stock. If a light goes out during the first 10 years, then you can take a light from warranty stock, it can get swapped out, it goes to the manufacturer, and they send you a new light back in warranty stock.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Your replacement savings is $135,000.
Yes, sir.
So, do I see a payment in here?
So the payment isn't listed in this one. If we were to go, if you wanted to get into a cash flow in one of the last slides that we have in this
All right,
deck,
you got that here.
we do have one. I didn't know if you wanted to get into an actual cash flow as far as that would be concerned. We're assuming right now that the city would look to bond this project.
Correct.
And so if that is the case, so we would be paid out based on AIA billing for the project. So we get paid out for construction, and then the city would essentially be able to remake those bond payments with the annual savings from the project. So we can tell you exactly what we anticipate you would have to remain budget neutral. Essentially, you take what you're paying in your utility bill budget now and move that almost like a fourth utility payment that you would use for your debt service, if that makes sense.
It does. Just that and this is guaranteed.
Yes,
so
sir.
Right, and so that all that bond payment is coming out of that savings.
Yes.
That we have to realize.
Yes. So you are already paying this money to National Grid, so it's already something that's in your budget and you're
Right.
utilizing to spend it. But that's just, the majority of that is coming from what you pay on your streetlight. And so the big part of that is the maintenance, well, it's about 50-50 between maintenance savings and energy savings. And so the maintenance savings automatically comes off the day you buy the lights, because now you have to maintain them. And so that comes off immediately, and it will report to National Grid as we replace streetlights. We give them a bi-weekly update, essentially. They'll update their billing, and you'll start to see what they bill you for the wattage drop off. But typically what we'll have that is, when we've done a lease or other types of payment, the savings guarantee starts 12 months after substantial completion. So you're going to get savings during construction, and then we'll say, okay, we're done. Now we're going to start verifying and measuring that savings for the next 12
Probably
months.
would. So we'll come back a year after the job's complete, and then do a measurement and verification, give you guys a report to show that you've actually reached your savings. If it's short, we're responsible for covering that difference. So there is that guarantee that will happen if you want that project.
Yeah, because it's pretty straightforward. The only difference would probably be this building here. It's harder to come up with
It is.
a little bit more of a savings, but the savings for the streetlights, which is the majority of the project, is going to be pretty cut and dry.
Yes, sir. And we have also, because the last thing we are guaranteeing it, but the last thing we want to do is create a back and forth between us and you, is we've been conservative on this savings estimate, so we actually have a 10% hedge on the energy savings portion of this savings. So we anticipate you're going to exceed this savings number each year, but that's part of the report that we'll issue is we will do a utility bill comparison, and also we'll be turning over our as-bills for the streetlights. So we'll be able to help negotiate that with National Grid as we're going through the bills, but yes, we have to guarantee that. It's a guarantee, so.
Okay, go ahead. I have no other questions, but see if you,
Okay.
I'm going to mark something down.
No, please go right ahead, and we're happy to dig into it a little more later as well.
And the cash flows are in the back if you want to look at them.
Yep.
It shows year over year how you remain budget neutral and where that's coming from, and it ultimately shows your savings is funding the payments on the bond year over year, including the allowance that Scott mentioned for the street lighting, as well as any M&V that we have to do year over year to get offer the guarantee. So, as long as your budget remains where it is today, and you move that forward, like he said, in the fourth utility, that's where your payment's going to come out of.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're hoping for a little bit of profit at the end of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So I'll head to the next scenario, or we can
Go ahead.
talk here. So scenario number 2, it's very similar to scenario number 1, except what we've done is we've removed the building management system, since it's a fairly expensive adder. We think it offers a lot of value to the city, but we also understand maybe a little bit more than we'd be looking to spend. It also is going to replace the air conditioning units here, but not reduct the units. And what that means is right now there's one air conditioning unit out in the lobby, and there's one right up above us here, but they're cross-connected across the building this way. It goes across this wall. And so if we reduct them, the thought is one unit is going to serve this area of the senior center, and one serves the front. And that way we can zone control that better, because there's the hot water baseboard in here as well. It's not out in the other part of the building. It would let that building management system have a lot better control. So as we pull that out, we wouldn't be able to gain that same benefit, so it's a little less mechanical work to reconfigure it here. Ultimately, that makes this scenario about $849,000 instead of the $900,000 or the $979,000 in scenario 1.
So most of that is basically the energy control system?
It's the building automation system as well as the ductwork reconfiguration above the ceiling.
So in other words, it's a glorified nest.
It's a little bit more than a glorified nest, because it's also going to be directly controlling your boilers to cycle them on and off. It's also controlling your fan coil units that are up in the front of the building that currently have the push button controls. And it's also taking care of the air handling units that are over in the library. They currently have a master controller, but I know it seems to have a line of its own, from what we've been told, that it's difficult to get that to heat and cool appropriately. So all of those units will be wrapped into one master controller that will be available via a web interface.
Who maintains that?
So that's something where it will come from Centrica with an initial service plan for several years that's included with it. But then after that, it's the cities, and we can provide support as necessary. It's a Tritium Niagara-based system, which is an open building management system protocol, meaning that you're not locked into using us if you don't want to. Several other controls vendors can come in and work on it. We turn all that IP over to the city to be able to use to have anybody maintain it.
Because that's the problem with Johnson or Honeywell.
Correct, they're a closed wall system.
Right.
A lot of Johnson and Honeywell also use that same Tritium Niagara framework, but it's not opened. It's closed off unless you pay them to open it. Our stuff is going to be open. It's via our DizTech is the name of the system we rep. And so it's owned by Acuity, who also happens to make a number of light fixtures, but it's a national company. It's not somebody's garage. It's not kind of a small potatoes. It's just, it doesn't have the same kind of, it's not a Johnson or a Siemens with the service plans behind it. So, and if you'd like, we can provide references for that from a number of other municipalities where we've installed those systems. But basically that's where we're at between number 1 and number 2. Number 3 actually removes all of those other ancillary air conditioning or heating system replacements. So we're really down to the air conditioning units here and the streetlights. We got rid of all the hydronic stuff. We got rid of the fan coils up front. That results in a total project cost of just over $758,000. Slightly lower incentive, slightly lower energy savings, but you can see we're still pretty close to where things were. That still puts us as an 8-year term, which between scenario 3 and scenario 1, that's really 1 year of difference in the term. It's still all covered. So just to point out kind of where that delta is. And then the last scenario we've got shown is just the streetlights. In the event you don't want to do anything here with the senior center and you want to keep the street lighting focus, that has a total project investment of $641,000.
Now, we did ask for additional lights, correct? With the streetlights.
I don't think we have extra streetlights. What lights?
Well, we did. We remember we asked, at a meeting, we asked for some of them to meet the bridge.
So we have looked at and we did reach out to DOT.
Right.
They have not been responsive. So currently, we asked them because we can't connect to anything to the bridge without them
Correct.
because it's theirs.
Right.
It was the city's point of contact with multiple back and forths, and we've gotten nothing from them. So we certainly can still try and put that adder in there if you'd like. We are replacing the underpass lights where 787 and go down that way. So 25th Street. Thank you, 25th Street. So there's those underpass lights are covered, not the additional lights for the
25th
basketball.
or 23rd?
I thought it was 25th, but I could be mistaken.
Is that at the entrance of 787?
Yes.
23rd.
Thank you. So those lights are covered.
I don't know if there's, I don't know if there is or not. I can't remember 25th. I know 23rd, there's like
There's
6.
8. Yeah, there's
There's
8
8 on each
lights
side.
that are under there. They're under. So those are included in being replaced.
Right.
The additional lights where the basketball court would be, and currently I know the police park some of their vehicles. We couldn't find out from DOT what we were allowed to connect and where we could run conduit. And rather than trying to delay delivering something to the city to try and get them to respond to us, we wanted to move ahead with at least some option. So we can still try and reach out if there's another alternate contact. We can try and get in touch with them. But currently those additional lights are not included in these proposals.
Can we add lights, you say, like, it doesn't have to be connected to the bridge, but if we put a street light underneath the bridge, can we do that?
You can, depending on whatever easements may need to happen there. But if we wanted to tunnel and you want to put up your own smaller poles, if you're not connecting to that physical bridge, then yeah, it is something that we can take a look at doing it that way instead. If you have an idea of what you're looking to configure underneath there, we can certainly work something up. We have an in-house
Well,
lighting team to do so.
Yeah, well, I think I know we had this conversation, and I know we've been talking about it for at least 6 years.
So right, our understanding was we were going to put in lighting underneath the dark area that we were going to fix, basically overhead.
Right,
So-
just like the ones on 23rd Street.
Yes, that's what we were trying to investigate installing, and since we didn't get anywhere, that was kind of fizzling and we weren't being able to get traction on it. We certainly can investigate other means of providing lighting underneath that.
And we were looking to install lighting. Remember, Joe, we talked about install lighting on the basketball side?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And this would be the opportunity to do that.
Right, we would just need to understand exact, I know there was discussions about how to configure that.
If you can send me whoever, do, God, I'm sure I could track somebody down.
If you can get somebody to return our phone calls, that would be
I certainly
fantastic.
can. I certainly
We
can.
would be happy
do
to take a
the
look
best
at
I
that
can.
discussion with them. 'Cause
I'm very nice about asking.
That is absolutely not true.
Well, then that's for the record.
But that's why you get the results.
Try to go on record.
Yeah, so that being said, that is something that is not currently included in these numbers, but we're happy to add in if we can.
It's not that expensive, but I'd rather have them done now.
Agreed, and while we've got a crew here to take care of it, that's certainly not a
Correct.
problem, we can get them matched. As part of this, we did also GIS all your fixtures. So we pinpointed with, we have the exact coordinates of every fixture in the city now. That's not included within this presentation, but that will be turned over to the city as part of our as-bills. So we would add in any new fixtures.
So now, does every fixture that you have GIS, is that all labeled with the wattage that's currently there?
So yes, we have all of the existing wattage. So we went to, and that was part of Ryan's fun and excitement, was going to each light in the city, marking where it was, whole numbers if they have them, and what the existing wattage is in the fixture now, and also what wattage it's going to be after the retrofit. So you'll know exactly what wattage and light distribution you have at each pole, and they'll also have their own unique ID number, so you'll know what's where.
Did you change any of the wattages? No, I meant, did you change, like in other words, if it was too light or not enough light or
We did
too
some
much?
modeling where we saw throughout the city, there were some instances where there were 400 watts just in the middle of neighborhoods where the other lights around it were 150. We leveled those out to match the surrounding area. And then in other areas, we upped it where we felt as if that it should match the other surrounding lights as well.
So you did change that?
Yes.
So
And that's on a report someplace?
it will be. That's part. So we're going to be giving the city an investment grade audit report.
Okay.
That was really going to be based on which scenario you'd like to move ahead with. We didn't want to write up a whole bunch of stuff about HVAC components if the city didn't want to include them in the project. Part of what we've got to write up for will be all of the street lighting upgrades, what you're billed for currently, what you will be billed for after the project is complete. And then we'll give you a line by line of here's every street light that you have for existing wattage, and here's what your new wattage will be. We can also provide you a map where we can go through in larger detail of here's what we have for things mapped out, here's what the wattages are going to look like afterwards. It was a little bit hodgepodge in certain parts of the city where it was, as Ryan mentioned, you'd have a 70 watt, a 150, a 400,
Sure.
a 70.
Sure, whatever they had on the truck.
Exactly. And a lot of times we've seen it where you may have a brighter light at an intersection and then you sort of fade back out, but it didn't really follow that pattern. It was just very haphazard. So instead, we really tried to levelize it based on some light readings we took throughout the city. We came out with our lighting team to take photometric readings. We looked in some areas where you've got cameras within the city for what's going to make the best light spread there. Based on those, that's how we selected our new wattage levels, and we tried to apply those levelized throughout the city.
Joe, he mentioned the cameras, so that was my next comment. On some of them, some of the cameras at night, especially on the streets, are washed out a lot. This will correct that?
This will significantly help that. LED lighting.
That's a very, very
well.
cover.
I'm being honest. That it's the fact of
I know.
the LED light shows up much nicer for cameras, and it's also very directional based on the optics. So when I say that, it sounds a little mumbo jumbo as much as right now when you have the light inside the glass housing, the light's very diffuse,
Right.
and it scatters everywhere, including into your camera lens. The LED light, we've picked out distributions based on the street type. And so it really throws the light exactly where you want it, and you don't get a lot of backscatter and no uplight. So as long as your light is below where your camera's mounted, you're not going to get any light back into your camera. The light's all going out where your camera needs to see. So it's really going to help that the camera's going to be able to pick things up a lot nicer than it is now. But honestly, without knowing, I don't know where all of your cameras are mounted. I don't believe we monitored all those positions. I know, Joe, you gave us some, and we took light readings underneath some of them. But I can't say for all of them without saying, we might want to reposition either the light fixture slightly or your camera may need to move. I don't know that it would be
Yeah, and we're happy to
necessary.
do that as part of the implementation with, the police department, obviously. If there are areas that the lights need to be adjusted slightly, that'll be part of the implementation.
Now, I notice you have 48 low top lights. I'm assuming that's all 19th Street.
Yes, sir.
What about Hudson Shores Park?
So Right now, those ones are, we did not have the bill for that one. And I believe that some of those lights were already being converted, is what we talked about. Is that not the case at this point?
Yeah, we didn't have any information on Hudson Shores to really look into that any further.
What do you mean?
We just didn't have any information to understand where these all came from when they were put in, so.
Yeah,
So I know they were retrofitted a while ago. I believe O'Brien, I know, retrofitted them, but they're all our lights.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, currently, because they've been
Well, we're not
retrofitted,
changing that.
there's not savings associated. If we retrofit the retrofit, there isn't a ton of savings that's there. We're happy to look at it if you want them to be consistent.
Oh, you think they're LED already?
If they've been some of them, I believe, have been retrofitted to LEDs. It does seem to be inconsistent, but that wasn't originally part of the scope we were looking at, is it was what are you being billed for lighting systems? So it was what's your SC2, which is the citywide street lighting.
Right.
And SC3 is what's on 19th Street. The
Right.
park itself is a different utility account, and that's not what we investigated heavily as part of
We
this.
did talk about possibly putting the one that you showed
The
us.
samples,
The
correct.
samples.
And so
Good samples.
this does include a sample installation. We've talked with Joe, we've got 2 different fixture types that we would look to install. And so once the city knows we want to go, we've got 2 different samples. One is going to be actually shipping today. So we'll have 2 different, they look physically different. One is kind of the same, we'll call it a glow top. You know, it's kind of an acrylic housing. The other one looks more like a traditional coach light style.
We saw the coach light, right?
Yeah, so the coach light's here, you have that one. The other one is going to be shipped to our office, and we should have it next week. And depending on which style, like, we can install those down in the park just as a sample area to see.
Well, the ones at the park has got the acrylic, and I'd say 4 of them are already either broken or missing already. That, you know, I mean, with the work we're going to be doing down there, should include, even if it's a new, you know, top fixture of some sort, you know,
Okay.
they should be included. Just the, I mean, because right now,
So is it consistent?
like I say, 2 of them, I know at least 2 are complete, there's no housing out, there's no globe out at all.
Okay.
And then some of them are lit without any globe at all.
If you can let us know the extent of what is the city's that's owned rather than either a different authority, a park authority, or crosses a line.
No,
we'll be
it's all
happy-
ours.
All of it's yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, they're all ours.
Then,
It's all got to be on one, our National Grid bill.
okay. We can check and see if we have that bill in our account right now to get an idea. But we're happy to run down and get an account, get an idea of what those are, and we can add those in.
And you would want them to match the ones that we're looking to put in on the road?
I don't have I mean, it's just something that really, I mean, it doesn't
If
have
we're
to
gonna
be
do it,
the,
do it
you know, the Cadillac or anything like that,
Right.
but they, you know, like I say, with the work that we're doing down there, they should be
Consistent.
consistent.
Okay.
Now, wasn't there another conversation too about the ones on 19th Street, we were going to put in a 110 outlet?
So technically for the National Grid, the way that it works now is they call it festoon outlet. That tariff is discontinued as part of when you guys go to own the lights. You're not supposed to add it because it's an unmetered service. So
Want to turn off the camera and then I'll,
certainly you can. But that's something where, so now I say that, but National Grid does allow, if you want to install an outlet, they will allow you to basically pay them a deemed amount of money. So if you say, we want to string out Christmas trees
Right.
every year, each one of these strings of lights is going to be 40 watts, and it's going to be on from 4 p.m. to
Right.
6 a.m. They run the same math, and they say, yep, all right, we'll let you do that, that's all you can use them for. They can allow that. We have also seen in times if you already have outlets, you usually just get to keep the outlets and they come off your bill. But for the most part, putting in new outlets is something that tends to be frowned upon. We have not installed them typically as part of our new retrofits, only because as part of this work, we're doing the separation, which is once the city buys the fixtures, you have 24 months to install a disconnect device. On 19th Street, that doesn't apply because you already own them. But for all your other streetlights, you do that. National Grid comes out and re-inspects all that work. Typically, if they're re-inspecting and they find outlets, they can ask you to remove them because they're no longer compliant with your tariff. So we can have that discussion with the National Grid rep. and say, hey, we'd really like to do this, what options do you have? So if they say it's okay and they want to do deemed payment with you guys, we're happy to add those in when we've got somebody in the truck.
I'm for it.
Okay. Then we can have that conversation. We'll reach out to someone and see what it's going to say. So, well, it's making them money, they wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
So really, that's kind of the scenarios we've got, is those four that are broken down that way. I know, if you skip ahead, there's a comparison of the four scenarios for all the pricing. That's kind of after the last page, just if you want to look for comparison. And then there's a cash flow for each of those scenarios following them. Didn't know how deep you wanted to go, and Mitch was certainly happy with that, if you wanted to get any of those guys.
But I think one of the things we have to do now is we have to decide what scenario. So as Scott had mentioned earlier, we've got to get into the reporting, so we then know the next steps going forward.
We got to tonight.
No. I'd like to do that, between the three, and of you decide where we need to go. I'd like to get them an answer within a week or so we can, get to that final step of getting the reporting, all the information that we need, so we can, advance this.
Yeah, we'll give you that right up. Really, our investment grade audit report also really serves as the scope of work for the project. Like we attach that to the contract to say, this is the work we're going to do. And what we can also do in the meantime is take a look at the park to get an idea of quantities and make sure we have that factored in as well.
We also expect National Grid to come back with, we're expecting the PSC, Public Service Commission, to put your project on their agenda going into June, early June, late May, early June.
Right.
Joe's done a great job keeping that process moving because that can really slow down. So that currently is awaiting the PSC approval. Once that gets approved, then you guys close with them, you buy them back, you instantly start saving like Scott said, and then we can get off to the races. Our plan is to try to start installation late summer and then get it done by early fall, but it's all contingent upon that approval and us getting started.
I did have another question on it. I know you said 558 fixtures. There was something in my head that said there was National Grid quoted us at 600 and something.
So if National Grid quoted you that, this is based on what you actually have physically in the field. So if you're being billed for more than that, that's part of what our billing analysis is also going to rectify. So we're claiming the savings in there for fixtures that don't exist and are coming off of that bill. So it's part of, you're getting a little bit of true up at the same time. It really wasn't that far off. I believe, I really have to know exactly what they were billed for.
But it's 500, but I'm not exactly sure.
I'm pretty sure it didn't hit the 600 mark, but it was close-ish.
There was something, it might have even been Joe in our FRB report.
I thought it was.
There was something that I remember, 625 hits me.
Well, it was, you own 600 if you factor in the 48 that are on 19th Street. So total, the total.
No, this would have been just National Grid.
But just now, yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but yeah, that's based on what we've got, the intent, and even if, so let's say it's 563.
Yeah.
We messed up our count. That's still part of this project.
Right.
We have to convert everything you've got. We have to do your make-ready work. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of. And there is one other item that is part of buying them, is when you buy them from National Grid, they want payment that day. So when you close, you got to do a wire transfer. They're also looking for a letter of credit from the city to cover that disconnect work. That's something that you work with your lender to provide them. Centrica is going to do that work. You will get that letter of credit back after we're done with the project. But it is something else that's just it's another step to take as part of that closing when that happens. Which as of right now, we anticipate they would schedule a closing sometime in
And
July.
what's the purchase cost?
Purchase price from National Grid is $149,000 and change. We expect that will actually drop a little bit as well. And we say that they use a formula that factors in the age of the streetlights and then how they've been depreciated. Because you've had this bid for a little while, we've assumed they're depreciated further. They update it on the day of the closing to say, here's where it actually, it's not going to be $40,000, it might be $3. But it's something to keep in mind where it's, or if they've put in 4 new lights because you had failures, then it may go up slightly because now they have brand new lights that haven't depreciated yet. So it's a bogey until
We typically see it going down slightly when we've done these projects. It won't be a big change. I think that was a new number about a year ago or less, so it's fairly good.
Okay, so that's what's included in the cash flow this time.
So if I could ask, so what should the council be considering when it comes to the different scenarios? So obviously, the difference between the scenarios 1 and 4 is a lot more work is getting done in scenario 1 as the 4, right?
Correct.
But other than that obvious part, what would be a benefit to doing any of these scenarios as opposed to just 4, where all the savings is?
The idea is that you're going to be able to utilize the savings from the streetlights to pay for infrastructure improvements at this building without having to spend capital. Because now you're saving, and I say that, there's still interest to be had because your term is longer, but it's not something that now you need to go out and get taxpayer money or take it from your maintenance budget. Or really, the air conditioning units that are here are 30 years old. One might conk out tomorrow when it's going to be 80 degrees. And now you're doing an emergency repair with money that's got to come out of your budget. And you're slapping what you can get out of the warehouse to get air conditioning back up. The idea is now it's going to be planned maintenance. We're going to be able to do these upgrades when it's not an inconvenience, or at least everybody knows ahead of time the shutdown's coming. And your street lighting savings that you've already got in your budget is going to be paying for it, rather than needing to go out and find that money separately. That's really how we look at these when we bundle these types of projects together. That's kind of the benefit that we would see. Especially because it is something where, and it's also, we're going to be managing one project already. Our project management staff and our subcontractors can come in and take care of it. It's not something that the city now needs to run another separate project, another separate bidding proposal. You don't need to now manage that project and subcontractors yourself. We can roll that all into the procurement we have for an energy project.
And the 4% interest rate comes from where?
Honestly, right now, it's a best guess at what your bonding rate would be. That's, and
Could be up or down.
right, Centrica doesn't, we don't have a stake in your financing for your bond. We're happy to try and help you find a municipal leasing partner. If you'd rather go like to do a municipal lease as an option, we'll help facilitate it, but we're also, we don't make money and we're not in the business of trying to lend money. So we're happy to facilitate, but as far as project size goes, that's not something, we don't want to push the bigger project to say, I make more money because I lent you more money. So we use 4% across all of them. If you'd rather us run it with a different rate.
We were doing 5 before, assuming a lease, because that's up where the rates are on leases. We know bonds are typically 1% lower. Come another month or two, if you guys decide to buy, who knows where they're going to be, but 4% is about what we're seeing right now for a bond.
At the housing authority, we did the lease. We did a lease with MOT. I can't remember what the rate was, but 2 or 3, I think I've heard.
The last year has been murder on interest rates.
Yeah, we've seen them go up a lot.
So who knows where the Fed is going to go next month as far as things go. But so we've seen them top out right now. They're not moving as quickly, but the leases are around 5 to 5.25, depending on the size of the project and your term. So.
Any questions?
Just real quick, if the city did decide to do everything, what would be the disruption time for this building?
So right now, in this building, we have all the work scheduled to be done starting after 2 o'clock. The disruption would mostly be, you would not have ceiling tiles for a couple of weeks because it'd be easier to leave the ceilings open. Really, there might be some staging outside, you might lose a parking space or 2. We've endeavored right now to try and do where you're not going to disrupt this building much at all. You may have some workmen in the library. We'll have as many guys as can work during the day. If they'd like to do it, they could be in there at 6 a.m. to do whatever wiring they have to do. Over here would be the same kind of thing. We've tried to keep everybody out until after 2 o'clock. So it should be very minimal. We don't anticipate any major shutdowns of anything other than we can kick off breakers. And then any work that we're going to be doing in the boiler room, we're going to try to get that done in the summer before heating season comes back. So it may be, if we've got to do paint patch, you may have a little bit of dust that we'd be cleaning up in the morning. But right now, we've got where everybody's going to be trying to do something really a second or third shift.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you for
gentlemen.
your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Joe, right now, do you want to go into reports of officers?
Sure. So as you saw from the pictures, our refuge truck was delivered. This is going to be the sign pattern that Stripes is going to do for us on Saturday, $750. We do both sides. You can see that. It just says Watervliet DPW with the seal that we talked about, plain and simple.
With my name.
What's that?
With my name.
Of course. We'll put them on there.
Yeah.
So that was delivered Monday. We finally got it registered today after we needed dry weights and everything else. So it was kind of a DMV hassle, but we got it done. We are going to be having a small swearing in on Friday for our new police officer, Vincent Dishko. That'll be at 2 p.m. A small swearing in the mayor's office on Friday at 2. We did lose another police officer to a greater position. Matt Cusson left us, the city of Watervliet, for the FBI, and I believe he reports Monday down to Quantico.
Monday, yeah.
Monday down to Quantico. So he definitely has a bright future in law enforcement. As you all park your cars and come into City Hall, you can see the work being done on the portico. That's almost completed. And we are looking to do the next phase in cleaning up City Hall, which will be the power washing and pointing of that the brick and masonry work that's going to be done. Over. Sorry, your mic.
I don't hear.
I thought it was on. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. It was on. I thought it was. All right, and then we got the ADA ramp across the way here at the church. Concrete's going to be poured on Monday. They'll be pouring the outside barrier in forms, and then they'll come back, peel those off, and then I think another 3 days or 4 days after that, they do the solid pour on the inside of that. You're going to see a resolution tonight for the estimates for fixing the sweeper. You probably noticed the sweeper was out and leaving some debris. We learned that the rocker arms, roller arms, and the conveyor that's inside, unfortunately those rollers were broken, and you'll see a equipment reserve resolution tonight to repair those. It is down there now. It's going to be about 3 weeks that will be out. So unfortunately we will not have it ready for this weekend where we're doing Keep Fully Neat from 9 to 12. But we are going to get that.
Oh, I'm sorry, where is it?
It's at the, this equipment place.
Oh, okay.
It's down there where we got the quote, and once we get the resolution approved tonight, we can then order the parts needed for it. But we're not doing
Is that
anything.
just from like regular wear and tear that it's broken?
It's
or-
a 2000 and, I just looked at it on the inventory.
2012, right.
2012 unit. It is probably more wear and tear. We've replaced the brushes over time,
Right.
but it was the drum and the conveyor and the boom arm that actually was just decaying, breaking down, and so on from that point. So
Did they give me like a report of what they did? Or like, is it, well, I guess I'm thinking the same way Barb is.
well, they didn't do anything yet.
No, no,
Yeah.
like, is it something that might work with preventive maintenance, or is it something maybe we shouldn't be taking on certain streets? Like, do we pick something up we're not supposed to?
Well, I can tell you what they're replacing based on the estimate, the quote that they gave us. There's a broom arm adjustment for the gutter that has to be done. So that could be hitting the gutter. You know, when you think about it, it could have bent, you know, as you go through there. The dirt chute arm was bent. The conveyor shield gets stuck. So it's probably maintenance not cleaning it out or whatever in there that is getting stuck. But then again, you're looking at replacement of the main broom, which we which we did 2 years ago. I remember helping doing that, 2 years replacing the main broom. You got shoe assemblies. I'm just looking at the big parts here. There's a hydraulic cylinder, which needed to be replaced. The right side gutter broom doesn't tilt anymore, and it's got a faulty motor on it. So they're removing and replacing the motor. So again, I think it's, to your point, I think it's just, it possibly can be maintenance, but it's based on the new one. We got the price on the new one, and we're looking at $340,000 versus the 25 for a new sweeper. But again, it's only 2012.
The reason why I ask is I remember a few years back when we first got it, we took the sweeper out on like a construction road and we picked up some heavy rocks that we weren't really supposed to and caused some damage. We don't do that now, but that's what I was wondering if something we're not supposed to, we might not know about. But we didn't know at the time, they picked up these big rocks and they got jammed in there.
Yeah.
Caused some issues with it, that's what I was asking.
This is the first real large expense since I've seen it, being here the 3.5 years. I've never seen this type of, typically it's been $1,000 here, or there, to do maintenance on it, for the seasonal work.
Where do you take that? Is that fleet ride still or no?
No, we got it this time, let me see, it's Johnson Equipment.
Johnson Equipment.
Yeah, Johnson Equipment is doing it.
It's out for 3 weeks.
It will be out for 3 weeks.
Maybe, depending on parts.
Yeah. Well, we can't order any parts until, I told them, we've got to do the resolution. It's got to come out of equipment reserve, so we have to do that. But it will be at least a 3-week job to get that completed. So.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Let me see, so we were out at the, talking to Louise this evening. They are looking to install the docks both at their location and our location within the next 2 weeks. They've been in contact with,
Perry.
with who?
Perry?
Yeah, they were talking to Perry more, they talked to Perry only because of the currents. And when they want to float their barge, they're using them as the guideline, but they'll be using Bert Crane to haul everything over to do it. They've been in contact with Nor. I had a conversation with Nor and Guy today and Lindsay. So we're looking at about in 2 weeks to have everything in the water, and they'll start to make their way up. And then a sister resolution to what I just talked about is we are purchasing the ramps and the piers, the pylons, from Kevin Schufelt, who had done those originally for the barge. So that's here for tonight.
Cool.
Where are we with the school resource officer? Making that full-time at the school?
The last conversation we had with Tito, our school resource officer, he thought 5 days was going to be good. I know the chief was going to circle back with the superintendent to have that conversation. That has not come back to me yet as to what we've decided. I think we're looking to go 5 days. Amanda did the analysis on it, and there is funding there, but it does look like we will be going 5 days, because I think that's what the school is looking forward to.
I know that, I think they talked about September,
Yeah,
starting up like 5 days in September, not every
Right.
time for the rest of this school year. so-
correct,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Yeah, and originally, it was made clear that the school requested that we start off with 3 days.
Yes.
And it was a kind of like an easing into the program again. So they were looking at it, but in light of all the things that are going on and some of the other issues going on, they looked at 5 as being, and certainly it's working out well.
That's great.
So,
Yeah, I think our SRO is very positive in speaking to go to 5 days. He thinks
Yes.
a lot of good work is done.
yeah. Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll go into old business.
Your Honor, there is no old business on this evening's agenda.
Good, we'll go into new business then.
The first order of new business is resolution number 30 for 2023. It's a resolution awarding a contract for the installation of an air conditioning system at Watervliet City Hall and authorizing Mayor Charles B. Petroselli to execute all required documents regarding same.
I'll make a motion to move on number 30.
And I will second it.
Okay. As I spoke about at our last meeting, that was the day we did the opening, that you'd see this resolution here before you. We are going with RBM Mechanical for the air conditioning systems and electrical work that accompanies that for $430,000. 3 people did place bids. Bids went from $430,000 to $488,000. But like I said, we chose RBM Mechanical, and our engineer, architect did all the analysis to say that they're qualified bidder.
And the funding source?
With this, there was $125,000 from the McDonald grant that's left from Sam's, and then there was $100,000 from the Breslin grant, and the balance will come out of cash.
Oh, I think it's great. This is a long time coming for that building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The final long time coming would be somehow or another to regulate the heat.
And we did talk, the mayor and I did talk about doing an analysis of the total investment that went into City Hall. So you can see where, where we are, the new boiler system, and everything else we've done, the exterior, what we've done,
Right.
show where the money's come from, where we've paid out, we're forward from there.
And then on top of that was they're working on the floors.
Tonight.
So that the last time that was clean was
This is the second time we've done it, yeah.
Since, and never was it done before that. Okay.
I think this job's been it was a lot better by this company here compared to the last one. See pictures of the machine and everything else that it has, so.
Well,
It's,
you got to give credit a little bit.
Oh, I agree.
What he was working with the first time was a lot different than what he's working with now. And so, I know what you're perspective. Yeah, because if you looked at the floor that I was talking about in the building department, that's basically how the floor looked in the hallway.
Yeah.
So if you looked at that, it's incredibly night and day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Motion made and second. Can we call the roll, please?
Councilman Dawes?
Favor.
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Petroselli?
In favor.
Resolution number 31 for 2023 is a resolution authorizing and approving the transfer of up to $30,000 from the equipment reserve to be used for repairs to the 2012 Elgin sweeper.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on resolution number 31 for 2023.
Second that one.
I'll have to make sure I missed that, that's going there. But we heard about this already. This is the transaction that we need to shift money from the equipment reserve to our general fund so we can pay for the repairs that were detailed in the documents I gave you.
Okay. Second. Call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
Favor.
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Petroselli?
In favor.
Resolution number 32 for 2023 is a resolution amending the agreement with Flatley Reed Incorporated for asbestos inspection services under the Community Development Block Grant, Housing Rehab, and authorizing Mayor Charles B. Petroselli to execute an agreement for same.
I'll make a motion on resolution number 32.
And I will second it.
And Dave could speak to this as well. We are using Flatley Reed for the lead-based paint removal in some of the homes where we're going to be doing some work. It had come up by the state and the feds, the federal side of this, that we needed to do asbestos removal. So we went out for an RFP for this. Flatley Reed was the one responding entity to come in. And the prices are similar to lead-based paint, but lead-based paint process, but we'll only be using them for the asbestos inspection and removal approval where and if asbestos is in a project that we are doing. Is that?
That's correct. This is for home improvement.
Yeah. We'll see this in the basements and things like that.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilman Billis,
Favor.
Councilwoman Diamond,
Favor?
Mayor Patrichelli.
In favor.
Resolution number 33 for 2023 is a resolution approving the purchase of 4 spuds with engineering plans and 4 gangways from Rusty Anchor Incorporated.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on resolution number 33 for 2023.
So this was the pricing that we got from the Rusty Anchor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, second.
I'm sorry. I thought you
I'll
did.
second it.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
You sleep.
No, we started talking, I interrupted, and I thought, I forgot I had it.
Well, I couldn't hear because she didn't have his microphone on.
Right.
No, but Joe's work is working.
You can get mine. Yeah.
Tested.
Yeah, there you go.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead, please.
So again, these are the original, when the Rusty Anchor was up and running, the original spuds that were in the ground. You'll see 4 of them that come out of the water, and the gangways that were purchased in order to get onto the Rusty Anchor at the time. Initially, he asked $60,000 for these. I asked if we could do better, and they were down to $40,000. When we went to price these new, this would have been $95,000. I know that was the question you had asked me, where do we kind of get to that point? So we felt $40,000 was a good price. We will now own them. There won't be any of that ambiguity that we had at City Hall where who owes them and who did it when the Rusty Anchor was there. We get all that. We get the DEC permit. We get the coastal permits. All that come with it. So that's what we're going to be paying for is $40,000.
Good.
Okay. Any questions?
No questions.
Good.
Call the roll.
Councilman Billis,
In favor.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Mayor Patrichelli.
In favor.
Resolution number 34 for 2023 is a resolution awarding a contract for the repair and replacement of emergency doors and windows at City Hall and authorizing Mayor Charles V. Patrichelli to execute all required documents regarding same.
I'll make a motion on resolution number 34.
And I will second it.
So this final work on the windows and doors is $109,300. This is to the Gallo Corporation, who's currently doing a number of the jobs at City Hall. This is for the windows that go along the alleyway. All those windows on the first floor, they're putting metal screening on the outside for security measures because those windows now open where they didn't before. So the police officers can open up a window and get ventilation. But we did this a little differently. The other windows that we had were drilled right into the window itself. This is actually going to be an anchor system that will be bolted and they swing open. So we designed them to be a little bit more security than we had in the past. And then the doors for this are the 3 doors that you don't see, but they're the fire escape doors that are on the backside of City Hall.
Okay.
They are just laminate, and they are delaminating now, so the different layers of the laminate door, they're all peeling off. These will be steel doors that will be put back on.
Okay.
Same sizes or anything else, so we're not shortening it, we're not changing any life safety issues. And then lastly, we got a crazy price to redo the doors that are facing Broadway in the court system. What we're gonna do there is actually make doors that look like doors but don't act as doors. We're going to frame that off, we're going to insulate it, we're going to put soundproofing in it, but they'll look like a door. They'll be, a window might be there, but it'll be painted, it'll be like a faux look. You'll see that like at Stewart's and those type of things, where they do storage, like for sales. So this will be the same type of thing there. It'll look like a door, but it won't act as a door. It'll be soundproofing. That is needed, just like the windows have done, reduce that greatly. So that's what this is for.
Good.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Billis,
In favor.
Councilwoman Diamond,
Favor?
Mayor Patrichelli.
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes the new business on this evening's agenda.
All right, move into appropriations and accounting. think we spent enough.
I'll try to, can't guarantee it'll be for next meeting, but I'll try to do an analysis and get that done, so you can see what our spending has been for City Hall.
Okay. All right, just before we go into the public comment, if there's other items I know I want to bring up, like Joe mentioned, we have the Keep Fleet Meet Saturday from 9 to 3. We have a number of areas that are been identified as, places that we want to, work on. I don't have an exact number of people that have signed up, but it's near 50 people. So we're going to have a good crew. And I believe you're already assigned to Brotherhood. Ready to go for it.
Don't you say you had people sign up?
Well, you told me you were going to Brotherhood. So, where do you want?
You can put me down wherever you like.
Okay. Good.
You're not gonna be here.
Bring your painting clothes. I got a nice job for you.
You couldn't coach me, could you, Brian? Would have been the better answer.
On top of that, we are setting up a citywide garage sale that is now pretty well underway. People can register online. I think that's all been set up, right? Everything's been set up, so people can now register online and for their locations, and then they, just have their garage sale. I think it's the first and second week of June, weekends of June. So, that's all set.
And we are working on trying to get Electronics Day. I put in to the company you sent me that's doing the Rensselaer, or the Schenectady County one.
Okay.
E-Lock or E-Lot or something
Yeah.
like that. I put in a request for hopefully in June. I did get a response to say that they're looking into it and they'll go back to me when they have more information.
Okay, good.
So we are trying Electronics Day
Yeah.
in June too.
Okay, good. And we also are having a tour of our hydroelectric plant. That's all been set up and approved by the school. The school's going to supply a bus. We are the ability to bring out 60-some people, 66 people to go out and tour the reservoir and the hydroelectric facility. It'd be at some stat, I think it's June 10th, and from 9 to whenever we get back. So, from that.
I think
So-
that's awesome.
So and also the school is going to work on getting a bus or, let's say, a field trip for some of the kids to go out there. I think that might be in May. No date's been set for that. They're still working with their school people. What else was it? I had something else.
Show with us.
There's a car show
Oh,
in
yeah, down at Hudson.
June. There's a car show in June down at Hudson Shores Park. What? Start, Joe. The car show is in June, and there's another car show in August. The August one is the one in Port Schuyler,
Yeah, the third end.
the Third Avenue.
Are we going to try to use, there was a conversation before about using the same, the way they close the streets. That went pretty well. We'll use the
Yeah.
same patterns and everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think that
Yeah.
from what I heard, I wasn't here that time, we were
Yeah.
miles away, but I think it's the
Pretty
same.
well. That was nice.
Yeah.
It was went really well. I think the only problem that I heard was that we forgot the porta johns. That was the only thing that we didn't have porta johns set up, and there were, stewards didn't really want us in there or want
Yeah.
people in there, and Pat's Pub was the one who allowed for a while to go in there until somebody really messed up the bathroom. So it kind of backfired on that one. But anyway, from what I understand, it went very well. I just rode past it, and I'm telling you, the place looks absolutely gorgeous.
That
The
triangle?
tree- the park,
Yeah.
that looks absolutely gorgeous. The grass is cut, of course, but the trees that are down, everything is trimmed. I mean, that park looks,
Yeah.
and with the bell and everything, it looks gorgeous. So I think that worked out really well.
Do we have any idea, is there anything going on with how we're gonna fix Third Avenue in front of like the
Yeah.
gazebo? Like the rut that's in the northbound lane?
That's-
It's really bad, and Broadway.
Yeah.
By the
I'll-
Arsenal.
I'll have, I had asked Barton and the Judas, I'll have to ask him again to come down and take a look at it, because that's going to be a major repair.
Yes, I know.
Conversation I had with them.
Yep.
was that removal of the railing is probably, the rails that are under there is gonna probably really be the only way this can be done. I'm shocked it wasn't done when they did the underside of that, because
It was the
that's,
money.
was that?
I know it was the money.
Yeah, but wasn't this the area too that they did underground drainage with the pavement, or was that just one street below?
Yeah, we were doing underground drainage there, but I think that was on the, a little bit.
Further down?
Well, it's further into the curb.
Okay.
I think because what do they call it, the perforator, where the water would seep through.
Yeah. Yes.
Was only not even a car width wide along the
Yeah.
curb.
Because I think
I've
that's where
seen-
we're gonna have to go with it.
I've seen the huts, or the same problem I saw on the Northway. And the state, what they did is they just brought down their miller and they did a swat 3 feet or two, whatever, whatever wide, and they just milled it and then repaved it. Maybe it's a temporary thing, but I think between the cost of doing that, the cost of doing, the removal of those whole rails, because you're talking major work there to rip up that, you're almost talking about new sewer line or water line size,
Yeah.
But if you
But
build it.
I know companies like Louise, they do have the small Bobcat
Right.
miller right
Miller.
on top of it, which is like 3.5 feet, 4 feet, so we could potentially look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think is a good repair, and we may see it to the end.
Well, and either road, it wasn't that long ago that either road was paved. I mean, Broadway was just done, what, within the last,
Couple of years.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 years.
That's a couple of sections, but I don't think there's any rails on the Broadway.
There's not, I think it's the third half of the issue,
The
the
issue.
rails.
But there's the
It's
same
not-
Right,
thing.
but
it's not that- you know what
what's the
they're
problem
saying?
with Broadway then? Because it's becoming, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing.
I don't know.
In a couple of sections.
Well,
Right.
we were told years ago, the issue isn't the rails, it's the wood underneath the rails that are rotten, that's what's making it
Yeah.
chip down.
Right.
But that's why I said if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right, rip it out, everything, if we have that money. But sticking on paving, we had Newcastle out on 8th Avenue, and they'll be fixing the 4 sewer grates that you go over those depressions on 8th
okay.
Avenue. So we met with Hank and I and the person from Newcastle, and they're gonna get us on the list.
And how we doing on First Street?
First Street, what's going on First? I'm sorry.
Well, we were going to repave it, and then we were going to do it with Colony, and we decided to,
So I apologize. First Street, we just got the bids back for the 10 water lines that we want to repair. Dave Dressel has requested that we repair those water lines before we look at it. I have to bring that before the council to look at that. That will be a city cost to do it, and I think we're going to be opening bids up on that. I think we open up bids on that on Monday, Tuesday of next week, and then we'll determine what that's going to be. But the town of Colony is not, they're waiting till after we decide if we're going to do this work or not, and then they'll put it on the paving schedule. But we are doing it together. But there are 10 lines that we're determining whether we're going to do or not.
and why are we worried about the laterals? Just because if they're,
It was Dave's request to consider and look at it.
I thought it was a main. I thought he was talking about a main, not the laterals.
But it's the main is fine, it's the laterals going to the homes that we're looking at. So we have to look at that first to see. And then, because we told the Colony to hold off on their paving schedule for that street until we get it done. So,
All right, I was under the impression it was a main. Because because we only have about 10 homes on that.
that's exactly right, yeah, that's why I'm saying it was 10 laterals that we were going to make sure that everything was taken.
To go to the curb box.
To go to the curb box.
Okay.
I just want to throw this out there. This is something I kind of talked to Joe about this the other day, and I mentioned it to you. And Brian, you can probably help us out with some of this stuff. I was kind of looking around the internet to see if there are any municipalities or states or anything that have, I'm calling them quality of life laws, rules, statutes, or whatever. And all I saw were like end of life, quality of life, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm kind of looking for quality of life, like dad, neighbor kind of laws. Is there anything out there? I mean, it's getting very frustrating because, there are people, there are tenants or there are homeowners who aren't the best neighbors, and, there are people who have a hoarding problem on their front porches and things like that, and I just kind of wonder if there is.
Well, so many of those issues are really code-related issues, and probably there's already existing New York State codes that could be applied to people like that. So probably first step would be a conversation with the code department and see what enforcement can be done on those types of issues. A lot of the other kind of less connected to the building, but more like a behavioral sort of thing. Many municipalities used to have what we would call nuisance laws. However, many local nuisance laws over the last 10, 15 years have been declared unconstitutional because they have First Amendment implications. They have very often, like if you contact the police too many times, it's a problem. Or if there's a point system or things like that, there's some underlying arguments at least that those sorts of things can be motivated by protected classes, race, age, religion, yada yada. So those types of laws really are out of favor now. Back in probably 60s and 70s and 80s, you could get away with those.
Right.
So I think you have to take the approach mostly through enforcement of the building code, and that would address a lot of those issues, and perhaps more active police involvement.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of like, I don't know, I always kind of think, what makes that person's right to be a crazy person
Disruptive.
more important than my right to, kind of live a normal, kind of like, peaceful life and stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And if there's particular situations you want to let me know about offline, then like more detailed, I can give it a little bit more thought.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we have a couple, and we're constantly getting banged by it. Because there's nothing seemingly nothing that we can do, to resolve the problem. And the neighbors are having, like, I've had enough of this. And unfortunately, looks like we're not doing anything about it.
It's hard to legislate being a good neighbor.
Right. Okay. All right, well,
All right,
thanks.
we'll start with anything else?
No, that's it.
You?
No, I'm good.
We'll move into the public comment period.
At this time, the mayor and the council have authorized a public comment period. If you wish to address the council, you have 2 minutes. We ask you to please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
We're going to open up the public comment period. Do you have a public comment?
No, sir.
You don't? How about doing one anyway? I mean, we haven't had one in months. But, okay. There's nothing. Well, welcome anyway. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. So with that, we'll close the public comment period. Our next meeting will be May 4th, 2023. And if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I will second it.
Okay, motion made and second. Call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
Favor?
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Patricella?
In favor. Thank you, everybody. Jason, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.